Hello everyone, back at it again in my little yellow kayak. For this trip I need to give you a little bit of a backstory. So right now it's mid-July, the water's hot, like bathwater hot, and all the fish that were shallow and chewing in May and June, they kind of disappeared on me. And I was catching them on pretty much everything I threw at them. You could catch them on topwater on the right morning or the right day. You could catch them on flukes. You could catch them on that fat Ika. I caught a lot on the fat Ika. You could catch them on cranks. Yeah, lots of stuff. Whatever you like. And then my bite kind of started slowing down. And then it basically evaporated. Like all those fish that were shallow, even if they were still shallow, I couldn't catch them. Plus, we had this kind of clingy, stringy weed pop up, and it can be really thick in shallow, and that just makes it harder to throw pretty much anything. Even Texas rig will get hung up in some of the real clingy stuff, and a Texas rig will come through most weeds pretty well. So, when the Texas rig is getting caught up in the junk and in the grass, it's getting kind of thick. But the main problem is my fish disappeared. And if I know they're not shallow, that means they're going to be out deep. And I tried one trip without the fish finder just to see how I could do without electronics. And I did pretty terribly. Normally I prefer not to fish with electronics, but I'm not going to go out and get skunked every day. That's ridiculous. So I've got a portable fish finder. This is an ancient Fish Eagle portable fish finder. You can still find them on eBay occasionally. They have a color model too, which is pretty good. It runs off of 8 AA's. And the grayscale one, which is the one on the front deck there, it just sips power. I mean, it basically draws almost nothing. And so 8 AA's, especially if you get rechargeable AA's, will last. I mean, it depends how often you fish, but months if you don't fish too heavy and you remember to turn it off. So the grayscale just sips power. And the latest rage in fishing is forward facing sonar and side imaging, not so much down imaging. So this fish finder is probably 20 years old, something like that, and for me it works fine. This is all I need, really. And really, I'm just searching for structure, cover, or fish, or bait. And ideally, I want to have a few of those things line up together. My hands are getting a little sore from paddling across the lake, but that's okay. I can rest them while catching fish. So it took a little while for me to find them, but when I found what I was looking for, I pretty much loaded the boat. They were stacked here. And they weren't quite as big as some of the shallow fish were in May and June, but I was happy to find a big school of fish. And what it was like a little drop off on the edge of a grass flat, a deep grass flat. So the grass starts in about 15 feet, and I'm trying to get the kayak right on the edge of where the grass starts. There's some schools of bait around, and there's some fish on the edge. There's also fish in the grass. And I assume what they're doing is waiting for those schools of bait to go by, and then they come up and have a few snacks and then go back to the bottom. Again, the water's like bath water. It's super warm. We had a couple days of heat warnings, 100-degree temperatures, and that really jacked up the water temperature fast. Caused the weeds to really go gangbusters. What I'm doing here is I'm just shaking a Damiki rig right on the edge of the weed flat. And the Damiki rig I have is a small tungsten ball head jig. Oh, I'm switching to the strolling technique. This is a rally shad. We'll get back to the Damiki rig in a second. but I was fishing both of them kind of alternating and simultaneously. Where I'm fishing, you can fish two rods at the same time. Anyway, it didn't take long until one of them smacked the Damiki rig, and I was really just letting it hang over the side. And sometimes that's the best technique, is literally just letting it hang above their heads. So if they're in 15 feet, maybe you want it at 10 or 12. You don't want it at 5. You don't want them to have to go 10 feet to get the bait. They might not know it's there, or they might not want to move that distance in the hot water. But just above their heads usually is where I aim for. This guide's, or the guide train on this rod, it's an Arc Invoker Pro. It has micro guides, which I really don't like because my leader knot gets stuck every single time through the guides. And so when you see me like extending the rod tip towards the water and trying to change the angle of the rod, that's me trying to get the leader knot to go through those tiny guides, which again, I don't really like. I didn't like the hook keeper on this rod, so I took it off, cut through the epoxy, cut the thread, and just removed it and replaced it with a Fuji Easy Keeper. And if I was a little bit more motivated, I would replace those guides, because the rod itself, the rod itself, the blank itself, is pretty nice for this technique. I just don't like any of the hardware. I guess the handle's okay. But other than that, I don't like the guides and I don't like the hook keeper. But the blank itself is good. And if I wanted to, I guess I could replace the tip top, but I don't know. Maybe in the winter I will. I've had that rod for a few years and I just never seem to get around to it. But I catch a ton of fish on it. And it's great for the Damiki rig. Now, if you were fishing straight braid, or you were fishing straight fluoro or straight mono, I feel like the micro guides limit your casting, but you wouldn't have that problem of the leader knot getting snagged in the tip top and the last two guides. That's a real tiny one. Thanks for playing, little guy. I'm going to switch back to the rally shad here. The rally shad is a new, I would call it a strolling bait, but you could do a lot of things with it, from X-Zone Lures. And to me it looks like, I'll just call it like I see it, it looks like a plastisol version of the Rapala Crush City Jerk. Now for whatever reason they released the Jerk minnow only in Canada. Maybe some other places around the globe, I don't know. But I know they released it in Canada. And I don't really understand why they would do that. They just shot themselves in the foot. Maybe they didn't want to cannibalize sales from the freeloader and from the mooch minnow, but for whatever reason they released this bait in Canada. It's TPE plastic, the Jerk minnow is, and they're coming out with new sizes, 5-inch and 7-inch, again in Canada and not here. So basically what they did is they left the door open for X-Zone to make the rally shad with no competition in the US, and they did. And then suddenly Rapala decided to bring the Jerk to the US, but I haven't seen in the larger sizes. So they're still leaving the door open for X-Zone and everybody else to have some kind of, I don't know, minnow bait that looks almost identical to each other. Anyway, the fish absolutely love the X-Zone rally shad, but it's not very durable because it's a plastisol bait. The Jerk is a TPE elastomer, Elastec style bait. It's probably a little different formulation, but that kind of plastic, so it's super durable. And the rally shad doesn't have that. It's just a typical plastisol bait, and it's going to wear out fast, especially when you're catching a lot of fish like this. Now that's offset by the fact that the fish absolutely love it, but they also like a lot of other minnow baits. So I'd say it's a good bait. If you're worried about the durability, you definitely want to pick up a little bottle of Mend It, 1/4 ounce bottle of Mend It, and keep those rally shads going for a long time. They get torn up, they get ripped up by the head, they get ripped up by the hook. Before they get totally thrashed, take them off, save them for later, put them together with Mend It. That's another nice bass on the Damiki rig. And then let them sit overnight, and you can use those baits again and again and again. I used, this was kind of funny. I'm paddling backwards to get back up on my spot because the wind's blowing me over the grass flat. And I almost lost the rod. I mean, that lure was right in, it's not really the prop wash, but the wash from me paddling backwards in the kayak. I mean, I didn't have the line out very far, maybe 5 yards. And that little guy came up and ate it. Anyway, back to the rally shad. You put it together with Mend It, and it's fine. Now, I kept a pack of Zoom flukes that I fished hard going all year long with Mend It. And as long as you don't get cut off by a pickerel or the tail doesn't get cut off, something catastrophic like that, you can put them back together again and again and again with a bottle of Mend It, and it's worth it. It's definitely worth it. So I was kind of alternating between Damiki rig and strolling. The Damiki rig is vertical. The strolling, which I switched back to, is casting out, letting the rally shad or whatever minnow you're using hit the bottom. I pop it up off the bottom kind of fast to get it out of the weeds. And sometimes that fast pop that you saw me do in the beginning, if the fish aren't on it already, that kind of fast speed move will get their attention, and then they come over and eat it once you start shaking it. And all it is you're slowly turning the handle. That fish jumped and almost broke my other rod. You're slowly turning the handle while shaking the rod tip. And it's not a huge shake. It's like you're shaking a drop shot, or it's like a 1-inch move in the tip. It's all you need. I have a loop knot on the jig head, and that bait is rolling almost 180 degrees left, right, left, right. And because it's the rolling action that's attracting the fish and the shaking, I always go with two-tone colors. So for the rally shad, I'm fishing a color called electric shad. It's got like a smoky dark back with a lighter belly and some small purple and blue flake in it. But it to me it looks like a herring, but it could be any kind of bait fish, any kind of bait fish like pattern, that matches whatever forage fish are in your lake. The other main pattern I fish with, if there's no like herring or shad or alewife or shiners, something like that, is panfish. So you want something that looks sort of like a bait fish, like oily bait fish, smelt, whatever it is in your lake. And then another color pattern that looks like vaguely like panfish. And it might be perch, it might be bluegill, whatever is the primary forage in your lake. Generally, if it's not, some oily bait fish, it's panfish. And so those are the two that I want. And I'm less particular about the actual colors, but those are the two like forms I'm trying to, get close to. It doesn't have to be an exact match either. I've caught a lot of fish in the early morning, especially on cloudy mornings, with chartreuse and white. So it's the two-tone color. It's super bright, but it really doesn't look like anything special. It looks sort of like a herring. There's that rally shad all beaten up. I think after that I had to take it off before it was too mangled to repair with Mend It. Anyway, back to the chartreuse and white thing. It looks vaguely like a bait fish. Oh, I just lost a nice smallie there. Oh man, I remember that one. He smacked it hard and jumped and shook his head, and that was it. It's hard to keep those big ones pinned, especially smallmouth when they jump and there's a jig head in their mouth. The largemouth are easier to land, most of them, especially little ones like that. But the big ones that jump, especially smallmouth, those are hard to keep pinned. Yeah, so chartreuse and white, it's sort of like an attractor color. It's very bold, but it doesn't match a herring very well at all. So it looks different than all the other bait fish. And so it doesn't have to be an exact match, is what I'm saying. Sometimes it can be just in the ballpark and you're golden. What I have noticed is they tend to, even if they're going to go for chartreuse and white or some bold, bright color like that in the morning, when the sun's above the tree line, they want something more natural. So even if you start out with chartreuse and white, you want to have a few natural patterns to kind of lean into as they get a better look at it. I think that's what happens. They get a better look at it and they kind of shy away from the bold, bright patterns. Now it looks like I'm just catching fish one after another, and I am. But this is a marked difference from the couple trips previous to this where my shallow bite completely vanished. And so if this has happened to you, I don't know, around me, it's very popular for guys to go along the bank and throw Senkos at the bank and any kind of structure that looks different, like a log or a dock or weed line. And suddenly the fishing dries up. Well, those fish are still in the lake somewhere. They didn't just evaporate. They're somewhere out there. You just need to find them. And so this offshore deal for me worked out pretty well. That one hit the chartreuse and white freeloader. Anyway, going offshore, especially in the heat of summer, it kind of saved the trip for me. And now that I have a general location, a general pattern, I can apply this at different parts of the lake. And I'm really just scratching the surface here. I'm kind of in the middle of the lake, and I didn't even, go too far left or right to check out how that was. I just landed on a school and I kind of stuck with them. But I get slowly blown off the spot by the wind. And then I'd have to paddle back up, and I wouldn't always end up in the exact same location. That one's kind of skinny, and I was looking to see if there's anything wrong with him, like a fish hook in his gullet. I couldn't see anything wrong with him that I could fix for him, but he was awful skinny. He needed a few more good meals in him. This combination of Damiki rig, or moping, or whatever you want to call it, and strolling, it's really tough to beat. If you were a tournament angler, I see this a lot, is, in the summertime, the tournament scene gets kind of tough. And it's for the same reason. If you were used to skipping a jig into the wood on shore and all of a sudden there's no bass in the wood on shore, or the wood has been hit 200 times in the last week, and the fish that were there, they've been caught 8 times and now they're not there anymore. But if you needed to fill out a limit, like I see this often in tournaments, you fish all day. I don't know how long the tournament is, 6 hours, get one fish. You get one fish, and maybe it's even a nice fish. Maybe it's a 4 or 5 pounder, and you go to the scale with one fish. Wouldn't it be nice to fill out a limit? Wouldn't it be nice to just load the boat with 2-pound fish? That's another 4 fish with a 2-pound average. That's another 8 pounds. Suddenly you're in the money. Or maybe you just want to go out and catch some fish. This combination of Damiki rig and strolling and alternating back and forth between them, man, it really produced a lot of fish for me. And again, I'll say it again, I was running dry on my shallow stuff. But I knew the fish had to be somewhere. I just had to find them. Now, I found them in 15 feet of water, so they haven't really gone into the really deep stuff. In the really deep stuff, they'll be in 25 feet of water. And so you got to be prepared to move around, and different lakes are different, and in the way the fish act, and maybe the water temperature in your lake's even warmer than this. And maybe they'll be in, on some ledge in 25 feet. But once you kind of crack the code and you kind of dial in a pattern, you can pattern hop all around the lake and even try it in different lakes. The other thing that happens, at least in this lake, is that if I get a school fired up, first of all, they start eating better. Oh, this is the wrong species. I got to get him in the net before he cuts me off. That's a little pickerel. Yeah, so there's two things that happen. If you get the school fired up of bass, not pickerel, they'll tend to eat better. And all you need is one or two to get the rest of the school fired up. The other thing that happens, and I can see it with the sonar if I bring the sonar with me, is that they'll get so fired up they will actually come to me. They will follow hooked fish towards the boat, and they will come to the boat. And so maybe I catch a couple strolling. The other fish will follow the hooked fish, and they end up almost underneath the boat. And then the Damiki rig, which I'm fishing vertically, will pick those fish off. And so together, it's a really powerful fish system. The other thing is, some days they'll bite one a lot better than the other. Some days they will not chase a strolling bait, but they will eat a Damiki rig if you hang it in front of their nose long enough. And so, again, the combination is pretty powerful. Alright, thank you all for watching. I really appreciate it. Just like all my other videos, I'll list all the gear in the video description so you can duplicate what I was doing out here today. Hopefully have some good luck wherever you might be fishing. I'll catch you on the next one. See ya!